All right, welcome everybody to the first Akash Steering Committee monthly meeting of 2024. Appreciate everybody joining. I'm going to drop in the chat a link to the steering committee README. What we do during these steering committee meetings is Anil or myself leads the group through a typical agenda. The typical agenda includes reviewing, discussing, addressing any community feedback, which we'll get to in a second. Then we go over the projects list of all the projects that are open and being worked on the engineering side and product side, as well as the marketing and community side. And then from there, we go into a reviewing of any new discussions. I know there's a number of discussions that have been going on over the last few weeks, so much appreciate everybody for participating in those discussions. We have added some criteria because, again, this slot is only an hour for the steering committee. So we've added some criteria for order of operations and prioritization during the steering committee for kinds of discussions that we'll talk about. I shared this with folks yesterday in Discord, and we'll use this as a prioritization tool today and moving forward. And then with any time left, we make sure if anybody has any other questions or discussions they want to talk about, please, we'll do that at the end. Cool. With that said, we'll start off with the agenda, and I'll lead us through so Anil can continue to, I know he's focusing on a number of things, but I'll lead us through the agenda today. Again, we usually start with reviewing, discussing, and addressing any community feedback, grievances, or conflicts related to the SIGs and working groups, or anything that you see in Discord or any other channels. Does anybody have any feedback about the SIGs, working groups, other user groups as we start 2024? Cool. Go ahead, Anil.
Yeah, just the one note I want to add here is that, and this is sort of related to the GitHub discussions and how we prioritize what we spend our time on in this steering committee meeting. One of the things that we had said when we originally started this open development model about a little over a year ago was any discussions that, I mean, obviously we can post any sort of discussions on the discussion board, that's an open board, but for topics that get discussed here and we spend time on, one of the things that we said was important was that the proposals or discussions be discussed in the SIGs first. So like if there's something that somebody's proposing as part of clients or something, bring it up there. So for example, one of the things we'll talk about today is GPU incentives. This is something that we've been discussing quite extensively in various SIGs, including SIG economics and SIG providers. So just kind of want to throw it out there in terms of, things related to SIGs as well as things related to GitHub discussions.
Thank you, Anil. There's also a note that Huey wanted me to mention in terms of bounties, and I'll put the bounty board, I'll link to the bounty board in the chat for folks. But there are funds available to the community with the SIGs and the working groups being the focus for how people are deciding on what is important to build from the community. So again, if a user is joining a specific SIG or working group, and the SIG or working group, like as an example, Docs, is looking for more community contributions, and there are a number of people in that SIG that are talking about contributing, please feel free to put a bounty for your time and efforts to update documentation, add new documentation to, again, the official docs. There are funds available for those that are working through the SIGs and working group structure. So again, Huey wanted me to shout that out, and please, I'll add the bounty board for folks to look at, but please feel free to start conversations and contribute to the SIGs and working groups and figure out where you can, again, apply your talents more and receive rewards for them. Cool. If there's nothing else on the current structure, then we'll move on to the next agenda item around reviewing projects and prioritizing and adding, removing any if necessary. On GitHub, again, in the Akash Network organization, you can see 2 project boards, one for the product and engineering roadmap and one for the community and marketing initiatives. These are active boards that we talk about every steering committee and are actively kept up. So if anybody has any questions about anything specific between steering committees, please look at these boards to track what's going on various roadmaps. And then we can, again, go from ask questions in specific projects or in Discord, and we can continue conversations there between meetings. Cool. All right, focusing up on what's going on the product and engineering roadmap. There's a number of items that are in testing right now, including provider feature discovery service, AMD support, and removing analytics from deploy app. I know on AMD support, there's been some members of the overclock team are working on documentation round 1 of the AMD support, and that's going to be distributed to folks in the community to start building providers with AMD GPUs. And again, that documentation will get updated. Does anybody here on the call have anything that they want to mention about AMD support? Cool. I know a big item that affects GPU provider incentives and a number of things that members of the core team, including Artur and Scott, have been working on has been the provider feature discovery service. Artur, Scott, is there anything that you want to highlight for the community? Again, they can track all the updates here, but is there anything that you want to highlight for the community on the call?
Yeah, so Artur doesn't seem to be on the call, so I'll just give a brief update. So post the work that I did, Artur is taking the feature discovery into automation realm so that providers will no longer have to manually label GPU resources. So we're just going through that and some finalized testing. So yeah, I would assume that it's going to be released very, very soon.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Scott. Cool. I know there's a number of items that are happening in progress as well, and I don't want to spend a great deal of time going through each one of them. If anybody has any questions about any specific items in the in progress column or in the up next or backlog for the engineering and product roadmap, please feel free to raise a hand right now. One that I will call out is, I know that the working group for content moderation has been going on for around a year, and there's a number of solutions that have been being worked on. As of last week, members of the core team have taken a review at some work that the Praetor team has been working on in terms of content moderation. I know there's some next steps that the Praetor team has in terms of rebasing after some changes have been made to the core code base. But those conversations are continuing to happen, and you can track those conversations here. So again, there's continued work happening around content moderation on the provider side. And obviously the CloudMost team, who I know the Maxes are on the call, are doing a great deal of work on the CloudMost API, refactoring of the CloudMost deploy tool, and a number of other efforts. Maxes, is there anything that you wanted to highlight? Don't feel like you have to, because I know that you are working on a number of things, but just want to give the ability to talk about anything at a high level that you're working on.
Nothing special to mention. Everything is being worked on at a decent pace.
Excellent. Again, I know that Max's work around the CloudMost API is something that I know the Praetor team is using, and a number of other teams and individuals can access. So again, if anybody has any questions about CloudMost API, the refactor work, any of the README files, again, feel free to drop a question in here or in Discord, and we'll make sure it gets followed up very quickly. Cool. Before I move on to the community and marketing project board, does anyone else have anything that they want to highlight or any other questions related to anything on the product and engineering roadmap? Great. Also look at the items in the release. I know if anybody here is building anything, I know that Scott has done a great deal of work on end-to-end testing, and there's a number of other items, again, in the release column. So feel free to look at the various projects so you can track down specific code if you're looking for it, how to do things, etc. Cool. Moving along, there's a number of items going on in terms of marketing and community. I know that Adam has been doing a great job of letting folks know what's going on with various events. Adam, is there anything that you want to highlight on the events front for the community?
No, I mean, the big three upcoming in-person events that are taking place are ETH Denver, KubeCon, and NVIDIA GTC. We're going to have a presence at each of those events from members of the Overclock Labs team and community members representing Akash. A lot of things in flight, but everything's tracking really nicely for those three events.
Excellent. Anyone have any questions about anything events related? Again, there is an events working group that Adam leads with other members of the community where they discuss specific events in detail, our presence, etc. I know he's been doing a lot of planning around Q1, but Q2 is right around the corner. So I know he's doing a fair amount of planning for Q2 and beyond as well. Cool. One action item that has just been completed is the GovProp around the 2024 Akash Hackathons. So again, thank you to all those that voted and participated in discussions leading up to the proposal going on chain. Adam, is there anything that you want to highlight here? I know a working group is around the corner, but is there anything specific that you want to talk about?
Yeah, just very quickly, I'm looking to schedule the first working group for our upcoming hackathons next week. So if you're interested, head over to the Discord and jump into the channel. So next week, we'll have our first working group call around planning our upcoming hackathons for the year.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. Cool. Again, I know there's a number of items that are community and marketing related that are being worked on this board. Does anyone have anything that they want to talk about specific to any of the projects on the community and marketing initiatives? Anyone have any questions, comments, or anybody working on any of these items want to talk about them any further? Go ahead, Robert.
Yes, I'm ready to present the developer onboarding initiative. I don't know if you're referring to that outlining or if that's going to be later in the course, but I'm ready in case.
Okay, Robert, your connection is a little bit shaky. I can kind of hear you, but I can hear a lot of background noise. So just be aware of that. Quickly, I believe what Robert is talking about is Robert and Benjamin there was some community funds available that they used for a pilot at the end of 2023 for a working group Zealy pilot. Zealy is a platform that is a developer-focused platform. They have a fair community, and it's a developer onboarding platform. Benjamin and Robert went through a pilot that was very successful and led them to put a discussion on GitHub for further programming. So again, that pilot that took place in 2023 is now over. Everybody that participated in that pilot has been paid, and I think there's a number of folks that are now members of the Discord and are sticking around and getting involved with some other projects. So again, that item is now marked complete. Cool. Is there anything else on the community or marketing initiatives that anybody wants to discuss in more detail at this time? All right. If not, then again, I might see a hand. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just another question about the bounty board. I like it. I really do. There's just one thing that if we are going to push the bounty board to the community, let's say, right, so they can just like look and share for the bounties. How are they applying for that? Like just like writing under the bounty, like, hey, I'll take it and that's all, or how does this should work actually? Like, for example, for 3 to 5 people work under the one bounty, let's say. That's my question.
Go ahead, Scott, and then I can follow up.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. So for that, right, the ideas for bounties can come from anywhere. Overclock comes up with them. SIGs working groups come up with them. And then it's ideally like, you know, it's not in the traditional sense of a bounty where, you know, you do this and then it's paid. You know, for some stuff where there's more nuance, we want to like assign the right person. Overclock Labs put up the proposal for the community support, so we're managing it from that standpoint. But yeah, so if you see something you like, just reach out either to me, Ty, whoever, and we'll see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, but if there is like 2 or 5 people reaching out to you on the same bounty, how are you like picking the one who is like eligible, or like how are you, who is like the judges who will like get the last results?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, it would, at this point, since like Overclock, we put up that prop, it's us to decide, and it's small dollar amounts, but you know, we're just trying to do things to help progress the network. But yeah, it's kind of tough if you know, you're trying to do governance for small $250 here, $500 there. So there's a little bit of balance to it. Go ahead, Ty.
The only thing I'll add is, again, we were trying to push as many folks into the SIGs and working groups as possible. So if there are a number of people that are talking about a specific bounty, I would create some time for those people to talk about their strategies at a SIG and working group so that we can, again, hear these people live, get to know them at least a little bit as a community before even small amounts that we're handing out. So there will be a slight process, but the process will move significantly faster than folks trying to, again, put things on chain up for vote for small amounts.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Next up on the agenda is active GitHub discussions. Again, we'll start with discussions that have been on for a long time. Hope everybody can see my page. I believe the last discussion that we talked about was there were some conversations around new schema for provider attributes. I know we'll talk about that in a SIG, so future SIG, so we'll cover that a little bit later. But as Anil mentioned, one thing that's been talked about a great deal in SIG economics and in SIG providers, and has been on for a little while and has gotten a fair amount of discussion, or a lot of discussion, is the Akash Network GPU provider incentives. I guess starting there, does anybody have any specific items that they would like more clarity on, or anything that hasn't been discussed already in the chain? I'll drop the chain in the chat for folks, but again, folks should be reading up on all these discussions and really commenting prior to the steering committee so we can just talk about high-level points. But does anyone have anything they want to talk about in terms of Akash Network GPU provider incentive? Go ahead, Chang.
If there's nothing, I just want to make a quick point of order. I think it's quite obvious. We updated the post last night, so there's fresh feedback that we've taken into account from the community, which has been, I think, really good and productive, that we incorporated into the latest edit. of the post. So please, if you read through the original post, this does have a lot more detail and incorporates a lot of what the community has mentioned thus far. So please do take a additional read over. This has changed from the OP that was posted about a week ago.
Cool. All right. If there's no further discussion on that, then we'll continue on with some other items. Looking at the list. Archer, I know there's a discussion in Discord around Noble USDC. This is a discussion that we can continue to monitor async. We don't have to talk about it any further now. And I know that this is a discussion that a member of the validator community had put on, and this is something that members of the core team and some other members of the community are actively working on. So we'll continue to track this discussion. And again, anybody can feel free to see what's going on inside the discussion. Moving on to some other discussions that, again, I guess next up we can talk about the developer onboarding program via Zealy. Again, there's been a working group that's been going on for maybe 2 months now. There's been a pilot that has gone on, and I know that Benjamin and Robert, insiders and vanguards, have been leading this program. So I do want to pass it over to Benjamin and Robert to talk for maybe 1 minute at a high level about what this program is, what the ask is from the community, and why they think this program is impactful. And then we can see if there's anybody from the community that wants to talk or has any questions, and then we'll have more folks continue to give feedback here. But I'll hand it over to Benjamin if you want to talk very briefly about the developer onboarding program via Zealy.
Sure, thank you, Tyler. Will you have the screen share, or should I do it?
I'm sharing it right now, but I'm happy, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, as long as you scroll down a little during when I go to the later parts, it's fine. So basically what me and Robert has been doing since a few months back is that we have been using a working group. We have been trying to find a way to educate people on Akash with missions. We chose to use the platform Zealy, and we asked for funding during December, I believe. We were able to get a bounty from the community pool, and we created one pilot and we did another, and we've learned a lot from this. Basically, we have been able to reward users about $3,000 worth of equity for completing missions, and we believe that the program has been very successful. I don't really know what people want to hear, like what you need explained or not, and I will also leave it to Robert to explain more.
Cool. Go ahead, Robert, and then Anil.
Thanks, Benji. Let me know if you guys can hear me all right. Sorry for the noise earlier.
Robert, your background, I can still hear a little bit of background noise, and I think if you continue to talk, it might be hard for people to hear. It might be easier. Anil, do you have anything that you want to say? And then if not, then I have no problem being able to speak very on a high level about Zealy, and then having folks that might have questions or want to continue discussion in GitHub go. So Anil, do you want to go first? Because Robert, it's a little bit hard to hear you.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. So I guess really quickly, could somebody talk about in terms of how long this has been running already, or is it not started yet? And if it has been running for a while, or I guess even if it's not started yet, what is kind of the plan to know if the people that do go through these missions end up sticking around versus just completing the mission and then never worrying about Akash again?
Sure, I can take this question. So we have had 2 pilots done in a period of about 1 month. We don't have any objective data on whether or not users has stuck around. However, we have had other users mention that they have noticed people coming to Sealy and then staying in the community asking a bunch of questions. One example of a user mentioning this is the Vanguard Rover, who also left a comment here.
Go ahead, Robert.
Hi again, guys. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. And yeah, yeah. Real quickly about ceiling, just to support a bit what Benji was talking about. We've been doing this for. I started by myself like on August 2023, and then Benji helped me, decided to join the initiative, and we kind of take it seriously around October 2023. And then after speaking with Scott and Tyler, we were able to get some funding for the pilot. And well, about Sealy, for those of you that don't know, Sealy is a tool that helps you grow your community. Their promise is that doesn't matter what is your community, you can create missions to make your community engage with your project. So I've been using Sealy for like a year and a half by now. I've been a member of Sealy, but I also done Sealy when I was working in staking as a validator, and we got great success growing up the community. But I wanted to do it differently because many people, many projects were using Sealy just to engage on social media. Example, go to Twitter and retweet this. Go to Twitter and like our post. Go to Twitter and share a thread. The approach we wanted to give was focused on Akash. And we wanted to like gamify the developer process. And let me explain a little more about that. We made missions to make people get started on Akash. The missions were really simple, like download Akash CLI, interact with CloudMos, run a testnet, a GPU testnet provider, and create your own SDL image, just to give you some examples. And well, during the month and something that we officially run the pilot, around 76 people interacted with Sealy. Out of those 76 people, 48 were able to get like to the second level, and they got more rewards. And out of those 40 something, we got like 15 people that were able to complete most of the missions. Now, uh, with this pilot, we were able to learn more about Sealy. We were able to optimize the missions to make them like more clear, and we were able to have like clear instructions. Right now, the next step we want to do is we want to formalize this. We want to now it's Sealy, but could be something else, right? We want to focus on onboarding developers. Like it doesn't matter if you're a beginner developer, if you're a seasoned developer, we can create different set of missions depending of the need Akash has, or the Akash community has, better said. So the next step from now, it's like fine tuning what's gonna be the best amount to reward to people to do those missions, and what missions can we have so these devs can build things that are useful for Akash. We have some cases that people did it for the first time. We have also cases that it was one single household when the big brother helped the small brother to do the missions, and it was really fun for them. Now, what we want to do is we want to continue doing the good stuff, but we want to use Sealy to recruit talent as well. We want to create missions in a way that people can do them, and based on the missions they do, we know where to assign those people. Like if they do many missions about becoming a provider, maybe they can be a good additions for the providers in Akash. If they have deployments, they can be good additions for the deployments working group, if that's a working group. For if there are people that are very engaged with community building and content creation, we can have them to be Akash creators or Akash insiders and even vanguards. So the proposal there has the numbers. There is another document that has like a graph, so you can visualize the data better. That was a suggestion Adam left in the comments. I'm going through the suggestions, and yeah, we basically wanted to bring this to you guys after enough encouragement from Tyler and from Scott and from Piper. Thank you guys. I believe we reached to the point that now many people, I mean, more people in the community can know about this, but also can get involved and help us make this initiative better. We also included things like budget for paying for the working hours, and we also included budget for the rewards. But again, those things are up to discussion, and that's why we want to bring this to the table today. I hope my explanation wasn't too long or too confusing. But yeah, that's the deal. We want to onboard developers to Akash. We believe Silly help us to do that and make it like a game, make it fun, make it challenging. And we see a great opportunity to onboard people, develop, but also onboard people to be in other areas of Akash, not only development. Like it's super broad the reach that we can have with Silly. That's what I have to say for now.
Cool. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that explanation. Again, if anybody has anything that they want to add, please feel free to get involved in this discussion, and then we'll take next steps there. There is a working group for Zealy that has been meeting pretty regularly. We'll set up the next meeting, and again, if anybody from the community wants to participate and get involved in the strategies work with around Zealy, feel free to do so. But again, want to make sure that Robert and Benjamin had some time to talk with the community. I know we have about 25 minutes left, so I'm just keeping my eye on the clock. Saw a hand up, but maybe it's not up anymore. Go ahead, Alani.
Yeah, very quickly, just 30 seconds. Robert, awesome. I love that idea. Just very quick addition. If there's a way to gamify SDXL, because it's free to use, and I've been playing around a lot. I've been playing with it a lot, just generating images and all kinds of things. And that's a great way that we can leverage that into marketing, like just reward. We can all go vote for the coolest image and just hashtag it with Akash and track that. I mean, we have 100,000 followers, on Twitter alone. If 1,000 of them could go on SDXL and generate images and hashtag it, I think we can always gamify, just make it fun. I think it's a great idea, a way to gamify and engage non-devs. Because again, remember, the history is focusing on devs, but we got to think about the real humans out there that are trying to use the system. Let's keep it fun.
Absolutely. Cool.
Thanks, Alani. Yeah.
All right. If there's no other questions about the developer onboarding program via Zealy, then we can continue on with other discussions. Moving along, I know there's been a couple of conversations around education. Some of them are newer than others. Is anybody here representing the Educational Ecosystem Accelerator grant proposal? I would also ask that if anybody here has any education programs, feel free to join the SIG community, which happens monthly, and you can start to pitch some of these ideas here before, again, putting proposals on discussions. Anybody can feel free to put a discussion up on GitHub, but it would be better if you talk to members of the community prior. Cool. I do see Alani here, and I know that Alani put up a proposal. Again, if we could just talk at a high level about, and I just asked this of anybody at the highest level about what's the problem that you're trying to solve, the potential ask. I know we could talk about theoreticals all day, but I just want to make sure that everybody's crystal clear on what's the problem being solved, the ask, and then we'll have folks that can continue this conversation and continue asking questions in the discussion thread. So Alani, I'll give you about a minute or so to talk about the Akash Network provider review and incentives proposal.
I actually only need 30 seconds. The objective here really is around dislodging deployer incentives from provider incentives and tackling it very differently. Because as I always say, you know, most problems look like a nail if we're culturally accustomed to using a hammer. On the other hand, if there's no appetite for it and there's a belief that it's being solved elsewhere, then that's fine, because my main objective here is to get this discussion started, that perhaps in a two-sided marketplace, we have to dislodge, examine, and solve for the other side of the marketplace in a different iteration. We can always look at the details. Obviously, everything happens on chain, whether you're voting, reviewing, level 1, level 2, pulling audit data, extrapolating into other ecosystems, all that's there. So input is always welcome. Like as I said earlier, if there's no appetite for it and you feel it's been done elsewhere, totally fine, but at least we've talked about it.
Excellent. Does anyone have any specific comments or questions related to this proposal that it might be better to talk about for a couple of minutes live that hasn't been talked about in the GitHub discussions? Cool. So I'm just reading through a little bit here. Cool. If there's no discussions or nothing that anybody wants to talk about right now, I would just again urge that folks can continue to get involved in this discussion, and then maybe this is something that we talk about again during SIG clients if there's not a lot of traction prior to that. Cool. All right. Are there any other participants here that have any active discussions that they want to talk about that haven't been discussed already? All right. If not, then again, I just ask that everybody continue to get involved in these discussions. Everybody here knows that I'm all about pushing things forward. You know, I hate when things stay stagnant. So again, please get involved in these conversations. From there, then I can create action items and we can start to push these things forward. Go ahead, Roger.
Hey, all. I just wanted to remind you, I share an idea about a possible provider building program. I think it's a great way to onboard new providers, hire quality providers, and make the network more decentralized. I've been running a provider for about a year or year and a half now. I've been leasing some BPSs on a centralized cloud provider, which I don't want to name. It just happens that yesterday, one of the nodes failed, and well, it's down. This probably wouldn't happen if we had a provider on our own. And well, I think, like I said, this could onboard more people and just a great way to decentralize the network.
Thank you for bringing this up, Raji. Go ahead, Alani.
Very quickly, just throwing this out there out of left field. If anyone is working on, you know, a DNA bank, you know, on chain on Akash, I will gladly pay for it because I'm trying to inventory the DNA, you know, of my bison. I've got about 35 of them coming from Wyoming soon. Let me know. Hint, hint.
Excellent. Roger, I appreciate you very much for bringing this conversation up. I know that this is something that myself and other members of the core team find to be very interesting. I know that I've reached out to you. So this is something that I want to at least explore more. So again, if anybody else has any discussions or anything that they want to talk about related to a provider build program and what it could look like, obviously Greg has been, active in this conversation, kind of sharing the specs for the build that he's been experimenting with. Please, we talked about this a bit in SIG providers as well last week, but if anybody, or excuse me, this past week, but if anybody wants to get involved in the discussion, please do so. And again, Roger, I'll continue to work to see if we can at least figure out an initial pilot for something like this. Cool. Are there any other active discussions that anybody wants to talk about, or any other questions about any of the discussions that anybody wants to ask right now, while we have a number of folks from the community and also the steering committee here? Okay. Last item on the agenda is open discussion. Does anybody here have anything that is maybe pre-discussion right now, or any other topics that they want to bring up with the team that has already been talked about in SIG, the working groups, or anything that anybody wants to highlight right now with the number of folks from the community here? Okay. I'll take that silence as we're all good and everybody's communicated everything they need to communicate. Again, much appreciate everybody's participation in joining today's call. These steering committees meet monthly on the last Thursday of each month. Please take a look at Discord, where you can get involved in various SIGs and working groups. There's a calendar that you can see in GitHub, where you can add yourself to any of the SIGs and working groups if you want to follow along. If you want to be, if you want to get more involved and you need help adding things to your calendar, feel free to reach out to myself, Huey, or other members of the Vanguard or Insider community so they can direct you. But again, much appreciate everyone's participation in all the various SIGs and working groups. Hoping for again, with all the momentum around 2024 and around Akash, AI, and all the things that we're going to be doing, really hoping that more people continue to get involved. There's been a year of this open framework. There's been so many success stories for 2023. So hoping that it just is a snowball effect and it just continues to roll downhill of just more people getting involved, more people just building on the network. I see something in the chat for end user experience. That's maybe you can bring that to SIG design to start, and then we can see if we need to create another SIG. DC North, I'll reach out to you offline to start a conversation around that, because I think that's very interesting. There's also a new user group that I think has got a little bit of traction as of recently around video games. I know a number of people run Minecraft servers on Akash and are doing a number of other video game related efforts. So if anybody's interested in video games and using Akash, feel free to join that user group, which is in Discord. Cool. Well, if there's no other discussions, no other topics, DC North, I appreciate you bringing that up, and we'll follow up. Thank you, everybody, for their participation today. I'll follow up with notes, transcript, and recording for folks over the next day or so. And again, if anybody has any questions about anything, get involved in Discord, get involved in these discussions, make your voice heard when things go on chain and vote. Join a SIG and a working group. There's so many ways to get involved, look for a bounty. So please look to get involved, stay involved. And if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody from the Vanguard's admin or insiders, and we'll direct you.